Hey guys, it's Jess and welcome back to my channel. I'm very excited to be filming this video today because I'm going to be sharing with you guys all of my reading stats for 2020. I've never filmed one of these videos before, so it's probably not going to be as informative and as in-depth as some of the other yearly review videos that are out there, but it was a lot of fun to just look back on 2020, and it was really interesting actually to see how I had improved on certain aspects of reading and how I hadn't improved on some aspects as well. And they're things that I can kind of work towards in 2021. But yeah, I have my computer screen here, so I do apologise if I keep glancing away from the camera, but I don't have a very good memory and I film with my phone. So, but anyway, we are going to start with the amount of books that I read in 2020. So my goal for 2020 was to read 30 books initially, and I'd had my goal set for 30 books in 2019 as well, and in 2019 I read 40 books, so I did pretty well, but I decided to just keep it at 30 in 2020 because I wanted to be quite realistic. I thought I was going to be working a lot, and obviously that never happened. But yeah, so in the end I ended up reading 51 books in 2020, which is pretty impressive. That's the most books I've ever read in 1 year. The majority of those books, I would say about 45 of those books, were read between June and December. So there was about that 6.5 month period where I read the majority of those books, because between March and the middle of June last year I was in a massive reading slump. We were in lockdown and I just didn't read anything because my head just wasn't with it. So pretty impressed that I managed to bash out that many books in 6 months. And yeah, my reading was up by 25% compared to 2019. So that was pretty good. And then the amount of pages I read in 2020 were 17,277 pages in total, give or take, because I do read ebooks and sometimes the page count differs in ebooks compared to physical books, but this is just all going off Goodreads information. And then compared to 2019, where I read 14,549 pages, I was up by 18% on that, give or take. So a pretty positive reading year in 2020, considering I had that 3 or 4 month gap, like I said. So the shortest book that I read in 2020 was White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo at 154 pages. I actually listened to that on audiobook, and my opinions on that book have changed in the last few months, just by hearing what some people of colour have had to say about that book. So yeah, I probably wouldn't recommend that book if you want to educate yourself on race, but I read it. And then the longest book that I read in 2020 is another audiobook, surprise, surprise, and that is A Promised Land by Barack Obama, and that was at 768 pages. And boy, was that audiobook long. It was almost 30 hours long, but it was worth the listen. It was so interesting. I highly encourage you to go and read it or listen to it because it has a lot of really interesting information in that book. Yeah, and then my average book length in 2020 was 338 pages, so that's pretty standard. That's probably like the size of your average thriller novel. So yeah, that's not surprising at all. And then my daily page average is 46.5 pages. That's spread out over the entire year, 365 days, obviously there were loads of days where I didn't read anything. I didn't work it out over 6 months, and I kind of wish I had, because that is when I did the majority of my reading. But there we go. So I don't know why I included this, but it was on Goodreads and I thought it would be fun to just add it to the video. And the most popular shelved book on Goodreads that I read in 2020 was The Da Vinci Code by Dan Brown. So that has been shelved by 2,690,511 people on Goodreads. I'm not really surprised by that. The Da Vinci Code has been out for years and it is quite popular book. It's really well known and a lot of people seem to absolutely love it, but I only gave it 3 stars. I didn't think it was that good in the end. I much rather watch the film. The film is a lot better than the book in my opinion, so if you've never read the Da Vinci Code, don't bother. Watch the film, it's a lot more fun. So my average rating on Goodreads was 3.8 overall, which, yeah, is pretty standard. I give a lot of books 3 stars, so I can see how that is how it is. The highest rated book on Goodreads that I read is The Hate U Give, which has a rating of 4.51 stars, which, again, I can see how that can be true because I gave that book 5 stars. It was absolutely incredible. I really encourage you to go and read it because it teaches you a lot about the justice system in America and how it affects people of colour. It was just such an emotional read. I actually listened to it on audiobook and the narrator of that audiobook did such a good job as well of conveying the emotion within the story and within the characters themselves. It was just incredible. Highly recommend it. Go and read it. So now we're getting into a bit more of the nitty gritty and we're going to talk about my ratings for books in general. And it was really interesting actually to see how I had rated certain books because some of my opinions and some books have changed now and I probably wouldn't rate them as highly as I did do back then, but that's how I felt about them at the time and I just I leave it as it is. So in 2020 I had 14 5-star books, 13 4-star books, 23 star books, 2 2-star books. There were 3 books that I didn't give any ratings to for various different reasons, and there were 8 DNFs, but I didn't count them in the final book count anyway. And my favourite book of the year, well, there were a few, so I can't really narrow it down to one, but the 2 books that I really, really love from 2020 and still can't stop thinking about is Every Heart Adore Wait by Seanan McGuire and The Dead Fathers Club by Matt Haig. Really, really like both of those books a lot and they were both 5-star books. Go and read them. You won't regret it. So I can see how my average rating of 3.8 would be correct because, yeah, 23-star books, that's pretty much how every year goes for me. I rate a lot of books 3 stars. So I had a look at some of the genres I read as well, and there were 8 genres that I could pick out that I read in 2020, and it was kind of interesting to see how much of a certain genre made up my reading year, and I read 14 mystery and thriller books in 2020, which is no surprise because I adore thrillers, my favourite genre ever, and they're generally my go-to reads because they're quick and easy. I read 3 romance books, 8 science fiction and fantasy, which I'm really happy with because that is a genre that I did want to start getting back into and I'm hoping to read more of that in 2021. I read 5 horror books, which I'm happy with because I hadn't really read any horror before 2020. 1 historical fiction, which is no surprise, because it's not really a genre that I go to that much. 9 YA books, 5 contemporary, and 6 non-fiction and memoirs. So one of my goals for 2020 was to read more non-fiction, and I didn't quite achieve that. I think I wanted to read at least 10 non-fiction books that year, and I didn't do it. But the non-fiction that I did read, apart from one, was really interesting, really enjoyed it. So hoping to improve on that this year. So yeah, like I said, my most read genre was mystery and thriller. My least read genre was obviously historical fiction. Not a surprise, although I do have some historical fiction books on my 2021 TBR. So we'll see how they go. I'm not sure about a lot of them, but maybe I'll be pleasantly surprised this year. So my best reading month in 2020 was October with 9 books, and then my worst reading month was January to the middle of June. I've mentioned that already. Hardly read anything. I think I read like 5 or 6 books throughout the entirety of those 5.5 months. But there we go, shit happens. And then I read 10 2020 releases, which is pretty good actually, because I don't really... Last year I started keeping up with new releases a bit more, whereas normally in previous years I just haven't been that bothered. And then I read 41 backlisted books, so that's just books from any other year that wasn't 2020. The oldest book that I read was Frankenstein, which was obviously written in the 1800s. I don't know why I put that information in this video, I just thought it was really cool. And then I read 22 books by male authors and 27 books by female authors. And then I've put 2 for various, because there were 2 books that I read that had both male and female writers included in the book, and I didn't know how to categorize that. So I've just done it as that. I didn't read any books by non-binary authors this year, which is something that I want to change in 2021. And I didn't read a lot of LGBTQ plus authors, if I remember correctly, which again is something that I want to improve on in 2021. And in 2020 I did read a lot more by Black, Indigenous and people of colour, which is something that I'm going to continue on doing in 2021. But you know, in 2020 I did try a lot harder to diversify my reading a little bit more, and I made a bit of a start. I know that I do need to improve on some things, but that's what 2021 is going to be all about for me, and there are just so many books that I am so excited for that I can't wait to get to and share with you guys. So hopefully at the end of this year I can confidently say that I will have read more books by LGBTQ plus authors, Black, Indigenous and people of colour, and disabled authors as well, because I don't think I've read anything by a disabled author yet. So we're going to be working on it this year, we're going to do it, and I'm excited. And then lastly, just to kind of round everything up, in 2020 I read 31 physical books, 12 ebooks and 8 audiobooks. I didn't include ARCs, but they would come under the ebook section as well. I can't remember how many ARCs I read in 2020. It wasn't that many in the end, but yeah. What else can I say? Alright guys, so those were my stats for 2020, just a little look into how my reading went for that year. And like I said, there are some things that I have improved on massively compared to previous years, but there are some things that I do still need to improve on, and I'm going to be working on those things this year, and I'm so excited. I say that all the time, but it's true. I'm excited. I can't wait. There are so many books that I want to read. Don't know if I'm going to get to all of them, but I have my TBRs for the next few months planned out already, and hopefully I won't deviate away from them too much. But yeah, I'm excited to share them with you guys, and I hope you stick around to see how I do over the next 12 months. Let me know in the comments down below how you did in 2020 and what your thoughts are on some of the things that you achieved and the things that you would like to improve on in 2021. I would love to know. I am going to wrap this video up here. Thank you so much for watching. Please leave a cheeky thumbs up if you liked this video. Please subscribe to my channel so you can see more videos from me in the future. And I will see you all in another video very soon. Bye guys.